Welcome back, everybody. This is the 8-Bit Eric Show, and I'm your host, 8-Bit Eric. Today, we're going to review a classic video game for the NES. And this game is The Karate Kid, based on the hit movie of the same name, starring Ralph Macchio and Pat Morita. Classic story about the underage high school kid who fights through the bullies and the heartache, and in the end, he kicks his ass and takes the girl. Dream come true. Great story until Will Smith decided to have his little kid and Jackie Chan bastardize it, but we're not going to talk about that. I'm here to talk about this game. Generally, when a movie has a video game made, it sucks. Think of it. Back to the Future, shitty video game. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Shitty video game. The list goes on and on. For some reason, everybody thought it would be good to capitalize on a movie's success by making a video game. But you know what? The main culprit of this in the NES era was LJN. Yes, and for some reason, this company always got licenses to make games. But you know what? I don't think this game is that bad compared to LJN's other fuck-ups. In fact, I actually like this game. And that's what I'm here to talk about. We're here to talk about The Karate Kid. So The Karate Kid is your typical 1980s high school story about a dorky kid who can't get laid and can't fight. And the Cobra Kai, who show no mercy to their opponents, decide to bully on him when he shows attraction to Johnny's girlfriend, or ex-girlfriend, or hoe, or friends with benefits, whatever the hell that bitch was. Everybody knows that she's hot. Elizabeth Shue, if you're seeing this video, call me up sometime. I'd like to talk to you. The Karate Kid, made in 1987 on the NES, based on the hit franchise movie. This game is different. It has a bad rep, but when you start off, it takes place at the tournament at the end of part 1, and for whatever reason, your opponents aren't any of the Cobra Kai, but that doesn't matter because it's a video game and nothing ever makes sense if it's made from a movie. So when you make it through all 3 rounds, you find yourself in Okinawa, which is where part 2 starts. And the game changes it up. It goes from being a fighting game, similar to Karate Champ, to a side-scrolling game similar to Kung Fu. Now this game is a little bit like Kung Fu as the side-scrolling action goes, the kicks and the punches. It's basic, straight to the point. The controls aren't very bad. It's the jumping that's a little bit bad, but as far as getting the hang of the difficulty with repetition, as any game of this era, you pick it up, it's easy. I used to not be able to play this game worth of shit, but now I can go through it like nothing. However, this game is not easy to handle. First of all, to jump, you have to push up on the directional pad, which could be quite awkward at times. The A button punches, the B button kicks. You have a crane kick meter up top and a dragon punch meter up top. If your energy depletes on those, you won't have any of the special moves. But luckily, if you kill a certain amount of enemies consecutively, you can get more power-ups that allow you to do those moves, which can be used with just pushing the button without pushing the directional pad, from what I've observed. So if you want to do regular kicks and punches, just hold down a direction on the D-pad. There's a difference between a game being shitty and a game being difficult. This game is not shitty. It's difficult, but it's not shitty. So if you want a challenge, this game will give you a fucking challenge. You'll be wax off, wax on, and left and right, like a motherfucker. Throughout this game, the buildings and any kind of background that has a doorway leads to a bonus game. These depict certain scenes from the movies, such as the ice block breaking, the fly catching in the chopsticks, and of course the infamous swinging hook, which is very hard to control. Now Mr. Miyagi, unfortunately, is not playable in this game. As sweet as that would have been, they should have put Mr. Miyagi in it. He should have kicked some ass. They should have had a little bit more scenes from the original movie. As I mentioned, the game pretty much starts at the end of Karate Kid the original movie, the tournament, and then it goes to part 2. So I guess maybe this is like a prequel sequel. I don't know how to explain it, but this game really had nothing to do with the original Karate Kid movie. They should have had more of the scenes from the Karate Kid. They should have had like the Halloween dance. They should have had, you know, hell, even Daniel getting beaten up on the beach would have been good. So they probably should have incorporated a little bit more of the actual Karate Kid movie than going to part 2. But as I mentioned, it's very similar to Kung Fu, so maybe in order to get that kind of gameplay that they wanted, which Kung Fu was a popular game at the time, they figured, hey, let's just make it a side-scrolling fighting game in Japan. So, back to the game. You just complete each level by heading right to the screen. Underneath your life meter up top, you can see how far you're proceeding in the level. If you go all the way to the right, you make it to the end. The enemies in the first stage are pretty easy. They're generic karate bad guys. True obstacles that you gotta avoid are falling into the water pits because Danielson doesn't know how to swim. A common complaint about this game that other game reviewers have said is the fact that when you get hit, you get knocked back. This is a thing that happened in Ninja Gaiden, Castlevania, Karate Kid, list goes on. For some reason, it was a bad habit of game programmers to have that happen. And I'm not going to disagree with that. In fact, most of my deaths were caused by falling into pits or water or holes or traps or to other enemies. So that makes this game very, very difficult. That's the main flaw in this game. Also, when you get hit, one flaw that is not great about this game, similar to Ninja Gaiden and Castlevania, is that you get pushed back. So this allows you to get thrown into obstacles such as water or other enemies. Stage 2 in this game takes place during the typhoon from the movie. You have a little bit of a resistance pushing against you when you head right, which forces you to kind of turn to the left, so it makes jumps a little bit harder. Also, there's tree branches and birds and other objects coming at you, along with enemies that are also a little bit more difficult than the first stage. The final stage takes place in a rocky area where some of the bad guys have spears and they're a lot harder to kill. It takes a little bit more extra time. So you better try to save up as many dragon punches and crane kicks as you can. There's also rocks as obstacles. Finally, when you make it to the end of the stage, you fight Chosen one final time. But it gets a little bit tricky because if you back up Chosen anywhere on the right side of the screen, the girl that you're saving, she pushes herself right off the cliff like the dumb bitch that she is. So a little trick is to start the fight on the right side of the screen so Chosen stays on the left, and you won't kill the girl accidentally. Speaking of endings, once you finally kill Chosen, or defeat him, as I might say, because Danielson does show mercy, unlike Cobra Kai, you get an ending where you get this special message from Mr. Miyagi, saying that you have become a martial arts master. So I guess I can just go out on the street right now and just crane kick the shit out of somebody and knock them out. So that's what I'm going to go do right now. So the ending is your typical NES ending, a congratulations message, and that's it. So I guess the one good thing about this is luckily this game is not that long at all. You can breeze through it in about 30 minutes or less. Had this been a longer game with more difficulty, then yeah, that would have pissed me off. But as far as I can say, this game is honestly not bad. So do I recommend this game? If you want it in your collection and you're a collector, then this is a must-have. An NES collection isn't complete without the Karate Kid in your collection. And to find the 80s and the NES to find the 80s. So I highly recommend it. Don't pay too much for it though. Get it in a game lot or get it individual. If you are not a fan of this game or you don't like challenge, then I do not recommend it. Well, this has been the 8-Bit Eric Show. Thank you for watching. This has been the Karate Kid. Wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax off. Paint fence. Side, side.